I'm going to start this video with one very simple sentence. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to shock the NFL this year. The Steelers placed third in the AFC North last year, barely missing the playoffs, so they are flying under the radar right now. But with the improvements that they made this offseason, I think there is a chance that they win this extremely tough division. I was thinking of the best ways to start this video off, talking about maybe Mike Tomlin and how great he is as a coach, or this disgusting defense, but I think we all agree it'd be a crime if this video didn't start off with Kenny Pickett. I'll be the first one to admit, I was not the biggest Kenny Pickett fan when he was coming out of college. In fact, he was my fourth-ranked quarterback in his own draft class. I had Carson Strong, Desmond Ridder, and Malik Willis ranked ahead of him. In my defense, I know it's a weird list, I didn't like any of the quarterbacks coming out that year. I really went into the potential aspect of a prospect, and that's why a guy like Carson Strong, who flashed insane arm strength, that's why a super athlete like Malik Willis, they were high on my list because I thought if you're going to take a quarterback, why not take one that can maybe develop into a superstar of a quarterback? But me personally, I wouldn't have taken a quarterback in the first 4 rounds. I just wouldn't have. But the Pittsburgh Steelers took Kenny Pickett with the 20th overall pick, and in Pickett's defense, he looked better than I thought he would, and I think he has a higher ceiling than I initially thought he had. That's not to say that Kenny Pickett had a necessarily good rookie season, however. A look at the stats will tell you that he had 2,400 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. You never want to see a quarterback throw more interceptions than he threw touchdowns. But I will come to Pickett's defense again because stats aren't everything. I thought he flashed some really good attributes and abilities. I thought he did this behind a very porous offensive line. And overall, I came away from the season hopeful for Kenny Pickett. And don't worry, I'm not just going to leave you guys with that. I'm actually going to go over some film right now of the Miami Dolphins-Pittsburgh Steelers game, a game I remember well as I am a Miami Dolphins fan, and I was sweating my balls off. I'm going to show you guys 2 plays that I think sum up Kenny Pickett's rookie season with the Steelers. Unfortunately, I could not get my hands on the all-22 footage for the life of me, so I'm going to have to use the broadcast tape, and you're just going to have to trust what I'm saying. The first couple plays of this drive were short passes to Pat Freiermuth where he settled in the hook and curl zone, and he also hit Chase Claypool on a drag, but ultimately they didn't get very far. In fact, that Chase Claypool drag came on 3rd and 9, and he just couldn't get to the sticks, ultimately making it 4th and 4 from the 32-yard line with about 1:08 left for the Steelers. And this leads me to, in my opinion, the best play of Kenny Pickett's rookie season. The Steelers are going to come out in a trips formation out of shotgun with Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and Pat Freiermuth going on the trip side and George Pickens as the lone receiver on the other side. And of course, you have Najee Harris in the backfield ready to pass block or go out for a route. On the other side of the field, the Miami Dolphins have come out in a dime package, meaning there are 6 defensive backs on the field. And of course, the linebackers are sneaking up to the line of scrimmage because this is a Brian Flores style of defense led by Josh Boyer. They love trying to confuse quarterbacks, especially rookie quarterbacks. Are they going to blitz? Are they going to drop in the coverage? You don't know. Luckily, I don't have to worry about that because I get to watch it on film, and I can tell you guys what this coverage is, and that coverage is cover 2 man spy. All of the defensive backs that you see lined up over receivers on your screen are in man coverage with 2 high safeties on each half of the field. The spy portion of this defense is Jerome Baker is going to fake like he's blitzing and then drop into the middle of the field. His whole job is if Kenny Pickett were to get out of the pressure in the pocket and escape, that's his man. He has got to go run down Kenny Pickett and prevent him from getting the first down. And if Kenny Pickett doesn't run, he's going to sit in the middle of the field in case there's a slant or a drag and disrupt it. Now, this is actually a pretty good defense into what the Steelers are running, which is 2 streaks on the outside, Chase Claypool running a curl out of the slot, and then Pat Freiermuth running up the seam. Now, Pickett's best option here, if it was man coverage, is to throw the seam to Freiermuth, and he knows that because immediately once the ball is snapped, he recognizes that it's man coverage and goes and gives his guy a chance. Pickett stands strong in the pocket and delivers a perfect throw to Freiermuth into the middle of the field where only he can get it, converting on this ever-important 4th down. And this is what Kenny Pickett can be, a calm and collected quarterback that executes in crunch time for the Steelers. This is a part of his game that if it becomes consistent, he can easily become a top 15 to borderline top 10 quarterback in this league. That was the play that I thought enveloped the good of Kenny Pickett's season, but I do unfortunately now have to show you guys a play that I think envelops the bad of his season as well. With 25 seconds left, the clock winding down, and no timeouts, it's a tough situation for any quarterback to be in, nevertheless, a rookie quarterback to be in. In this situation, the Steelers come out in an ace formation, or essentially a balanced formation with two receivers on each side and a running back in the backfield. They're going to come out in shotgun, and they're going to essentially run the same play that we just saw on the last play I showed you. Two deep outside routes, Freiermuth going up the seam, and except this time it's on the right side, and the other exception is that Olszewski is going to run a crosser over the middle of the field. It's essentially this play from Madden, except that inside receiver is Najee Harris in the backfield, and he flares out to the left side. And for the Dolphins, it's the exact same play that they ran on the play I showed you just before this one, except for the fact that since Najee Harris flares out, Jerome Baker is man-on-man with him, meaning there is no spy. Now, Pickett is going to face immediate pressure off of the left side, but has more than enough room to just step up and sit in the pocket, which he does not elect to do. I'm not going to knock it too much because I think Pickett has a talent to extend plays and throw on the run. But when he gets out to throw on the run, he sees that everybody is covered. In this situation, a veteran, smart quarterback is either A, going to throw the ball away, or B, which I think Pickett should have done, try and take off and run to the sideline. Pickett decides to choose option C and decides to try and throw the ball to Deontay Johnson, who is completely covered by Noah Igbenogany. The only excuse I could come up for Pickett in this situation is maybe he thought Deontay was going to try and come back for the ball right outside of the end zone. However, that's not a very high percentage throw. It's a very tough throw, and it resulted in a turnover and loss for his team. Now, Pickett had his fair share of mental mistakes throughout his rookie season that if he were smarter with the ball, the Steelers team probably makes the playoffs with how the standings turned out. However, these mistakes are very fixable, and I'm very confident that Pickett can fix these things to become a consistent, solid quarterback that the Steelers need. In fact, we saw Kenny Pickett evolve as a player at the end of last season when he had a game-winning drive against the Raiders and a game-winning drive against the Ravens. Now, these are both amazing plays, and you might be asking, why aren't these your favorite plays? That play against Miami was the first time I sat there and thought, oh, Pickett has a real shot to be a good quarterback in this league. He doesn't fold under pressure. He can stand strong in the pocket and take a hit and deliver a throw. Pickett has a chance. Now that I got the quarterback out of the way, I want to talk about another part of their offseason that is making me hopeful for next year, and that is their free agency and more specifically their draft. I thought their free agency was okay. I thought they added some starters such as Isaac Suomelo. He's going to play at left guard for them. Patrick Peterson is going to be in the secondary for them at some level. Keanu Neal is going to fill that Tremaine Edmonds spot. Trading for Allen Robinson for essentially a pick swap to be your third wide receiver was a great move. And a guy like Larry Ogunjobi is going to make an impact on their defensive line. Now, where the Steelers really hit it out of the park was with their draft class. It was insane. I'm going to read the picks in the order that they were picked, with Broderick Jones, Joey Porter Jr., Keanu Benton, Darnell Washington, Nick Herbig, Corey Trice, and Spencer Anderson. And oh my God, their first 6 picks, just slam dunks, home runs out of the park. Broderick Jones was my number 1 offensive tackle. Joey Porter Jr. was my cornerback 4 in an insanely deep corner class. He's great. Keanu Benton, I've seen people like TFG or that franchise guy give comparisons to Cam Hayward, and I totally see it. He is a bit of a project, but if you can get all that talent out of him, he's going to be disgusting. And he'll make an impact almost immediately for you guys. I assume he's going to start a lot of games. Darnell Washington, maybe he didn't need tight end, but the value of getting a 6'7" insane blocker at that position is just great. Adds another weapon for Pickett. The addition of Herbig, he fits your guys' system, that 3-4 with those outside rushing linebackers. He was super, super efficient in college. I love it. And maybe one of the steals of the draft in Corey Trice in the 7th round. He was a top 10 corner for me. I had a 3rd round grade on him, and I expect him to make some noise in training camp for the Steelers this year. And Spencer Anderson, I didn't really scout him all that much, but I'm not going to knock a pick at the end of the draft. Whatever. With free agency and the draft out of the way, why don't we take a look at the offensive and defensive rosters that the Steelers have? First, we'll take a look at the offensive roster, and just keep in mind that the people with green names are just new additions. And first looks at it, I mean, it looks deadly. I'm not even going to lie. I'm going to start off with the strongest part of this offense, and that is the skill positions. George Pickens most likely going to take on that wide receiver one role. At least I think he will this year. He is going to be a dominant receiver in this league, and I expect them to make use of him. Dante Johnson, he was wide receiver one for a time, but I think he fits better in that wide receiver two role. As for Allen Robinson, he's going to make a great slot receiver for the Steelers. And that's not to mention Pat Freiermuth, who's also going to help in the passing game, and Darnell Washington, who's not on here, but he'd be the second tight end right behind Freiermuth, and that's going to be so hard to stop. A 6'7", 270-pound blocker, and then a super, super talented pass catcher in Freiermuth. Of course, there's Kenny Pickett. We just talked about him, and right next to him is his running mate, Najee Harris. Najee Harris caught a lot of flack last year, saying told, hey, you're going too horizontal. We need you to get vertical more. We need you to try and get those first downs. And I will admit there were plays where it was like, Najee, what are you doing? Just fall forward. But I do think a lot of that issue was with this offensive line. This offensive line was not good, and the additions of Broderick Jones and Isaac Seumalo is a really big deal. I still do think that Okorafor and James Daniels should be upgraded. It won't happen this year, but next year that should be looked to be upgraded. But it's a better offensive line than it was, and that's a big step forward because it was one of the worst offensive lines in the league. And that brings me back to my Pickett point. If Kenny Pickett is able to elevate his play, he can do a lot with this roster. I think this offense can be one of the better ones in the league, especially if this offensive line holds up like I think it will, and if Kenny Pickett develops like I think he could. By the way, Steelers fans, I love the name I've seen some of you give this offensive line, the Picket Fence. That is one of the greatest names I've ever heard, ever. That is awesome. Now moving to this defensive roster, there was a surprising amount of turnover, but it just looks like it's going to be one of the top three, if not the best defense in the league. I saw a post on Twitter the other day where it was like, what is the best defensive line in football? And it listed the Eagles, the 49ers, and the Jets. And I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers deserve to be on that list. TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith make up one of the best edge rushing duos in the league, consisting of maybe the best edge rusher in the league in TJ Watt. Cam Hayward has been playing at a high level for just so long, and now he gets someone to mentor in Keanu Benton, who has all the talent in the world and could break out as early as this season. And Larry Ogunjobi, maybe he's not a big name, but he's a productive player that is going to make an impact on this defense. The Steelers changed at linebacker all over the place, and it was a much-needed upgrade because I am not the biggest Devin Bush fan on the planet, and Cole Holcomb is a lot better than he is. He's going to play that Mike role for this defense. He's going to be an excellent player for you guys. And Landon Roberts, as a Dolphins fan, I'm going to miss him. He's not great in coverage, but he is a thumper in the run game. He's going to kind of be in that Alex Spillane role for you guys. Just a nasty, nasty run stopper. Fits what the Steelers want to do very well. And then we get to the secondary, and this has a chance to really push this defense over the edge because Joey Porter Jr. is going to be your cornerback number one. He's going to come in and make an impact in that secondary immediately. Patrick Peterson, he actually has an asterisk next to his name. And the reason for this is I think if Corey Trice can stay healthy in camp, there's a real shot that he can take the cornerback number 2 spot. I really think that. There's the best center fielder in the league in Minkah Fitzpatrick. And then there's Keanu Neal, who's going to fill that Tremaine Edmonds role just as well as he did, if not better. So I've had nothing but praise for this Pittsburgh Steelers roster, but what are some weaknesses that I see in it? On the offensive side of the ball, the offensive line depth is very worrisome. They are an injury or two away from being back to maybe the worst offensive line in the league. So you're really, really hoping that group can stay healthy. And defensively, this might sound weird to some people, but slot corner is a massive, massive worry for me. You might think, it's slot corner, who cares? In today's NFL, it means a lot to have a good slot corner. A lot of teams live and die from their slot corner. I was at first thinking Trice, but I don't think he's ever really played slot at the college level, and I'm not sure he'd be all too great at it at the NFL level. The only realistic options I see are Pat Peterson, Levi Wallace, and even someone like Duke Dawson, who was projected as a pretty good nickelback. But overall, I think this is an excellent roster, and that's going to bring us to our final point of this video, and that's going to be a quick one, and it's just Mike Tomlin is amazing. In 16 seasons as an NFL head coach, Tomlin has never once had a losing season. That is one of the most insane statistics in all of sports, not including just football. I think this is one of the most talented rosters he's had in quite some time, and I am so excited to see what this team can do next year. Now, am I quite ready to put a record onto this team yet? No, there's still a lot of offseason to go, but I do think that the Steelers, including the Bengals and the Ravens, will all make the playoffs, and they're all going to be contenders. Thank you so much to everybody watching. This was one of my most in-depth videos ever. It took a lot of work, and I really appreciate you staying and watching the whole thing. Make sure you subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. And if you'd like to follow me on social media, you can follow Dean Trombino on Twitter, and you can go to TikTok and follow Dino Trombino to keep up with all of my sports takes. Again, thank you all so much for watching.